Residents of Belegete community in Obanlikwu local government area of Cross River State have fled their homes following an attack by Ambazonian rebels on the area. There are details for you in this intro package. Take a listen.
A border village between Cross River State in Nigeria and Cameroon was invaded by Ambazonian separatist rebel Ambazonian Defense Forces (ADF), leaving hundreds of persons wounded or displaced. The struggle for Ambazonia's independence has spilled over, leaving death, displacement and terror in its wake. Over 52,000 Cameroonian refugees seek safety here, yet the recent invasion by armed rebels shattered peace. The rebels, who are calling for an independent state called Ambazonia in the southwest and northwest regions of Cameroon, have been at loggerheads with the country's authorities since 2017, a clash that has claimed over 6,000 lives and the displacement of nearly 600 through the forest areas. One of such communities is Belegete. The community hosts the highest number of refugees from Cameroon. In the recent attack, the Ambazonian insurgents abducted over 40 Cross River indigents, killed the clan head, Chief Francis Okweshi, and occupied the area for days. Reacting to the unfortunate situation, the Deputy Governor of the troubled state, Peter Ode, sympathized with the victims of the unfortunate attack. As leaders express sympathy, the urgent need for secure measures to regulate immigration echoes louder. How do we balance compassion for the displaced with safeguarding against unforeseen threats?
Very, very disturbing report there. And I, of course, to shed more light on this on the program today, I have with me, joining virtually, George Brown, security analyst from Rivers State. Thank you so much for your time, George Brown.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Good evening.
Great. Okay, great. Now, let's, of course, create or give a background to this particular development. Can you give some sort of insight into this Ambazonian rebels, who they are, where they're from, their style of attacks, and why do they choose to attack communities?
Okay, thanks. Ambazonia is basically one part of Cameroon. They are the English-speaking part of northwest and southwest Cameroon. These are people that were originally part of the defunct eastern Nigeria. In 1961, a plebiscite was held and the referendum was organized, where they elected freely not to remain a part of the eastern Nigeria or part of Nigeria. They preferred to become a part of Cameroon, and that was how the Anglophone, but however, Francophone or French is the national language of Cameroon. But they still kept their English speaking background. And they even speak a form of Pidgin English that is slightly different from ours, but they also speak Pidgin English. However, over time, the government of Paul Biya, the current president of La République du Cameroun, decided that these people are beginning to complain and agitate for due to neglect from the from Yaoundé. And because they are being neglected, they are the major producers of oil. All the oil fields in Cameroon are situated in that region of the northwest and the southwest region of Cameroon as it is right now. So because of the deposits and the international geopolitics powered by France, these people started agitating, just like the kind of agitation we had some time ago in the Niger Delta. That's what happened. And the government of Cameroon under Paul Biya decided to go hard on them, and it caused displacement, and they started migrating or dispersing towards Nigeria. And the first port of call, of course, would be Cross River State. So there are lots of them that are in all the border communities because they have relatives, blood relatives. Going on there is terrible. If you have, there are videos all over the place. emanating from that place every day. Some of them are so horrific and gory that they even slaughter gendarmes. But I can tell you for free that the attack on Belegete community, it's actually not from the Ambazonians. It's actually not from them.
You said the attack on the Belegete community isn't from the Ambazonians.
Yes. Exactly.
So who's responsible for the attacks?
Now, it's simple. If I have issues with you and I decide, if I have issues with my neighbor and you harbor me and I am displaced and you give me succor, you take me in, how do I fight against you? I can't fight against you because you're my host. Do you understand? They have the same religion with the people that they have the same customs, the same tradition. Everything is the same. Even the dressing is the same. So I will not attack you. So what is happening is the government of Cameroon, the government of Obia, has infiltrated and sent the gendarme, the special forces of the gendarme, into these places just to make the people get agitated and cause an internal insurrection between the host and the IDPs.
So you are saying that the attack, sorry, I just need to be clear. I need to be clear and get your point of view. You said the attack is not by the Ambazonian rebel, yes, but the gendarme forces.
That's correct. That's correct.
I mean, sorry, the reason why I'm asking is this. I mean, this is not the first time that we are hearing of purported attacks by the Ambazonian rebels. We saw something closely related sometime in 2022 at a Boki local government area. There were also reports of attack of this same group somewhere in Taraba. So are you saying that they are not a violent group as perceived to be?
They are not violent to Nigerians, either from Taraba, that also shares close affinity with them, or even the Cross River. They are not violent towards us. The people are agitating to secede from Cameroon. And Cameroon does not want them to secede from that country, like Cameroon, because of the oil deposits in Bakassi and all over that area of North Cameroon. It cannot be the ones that are attacking their neighbors that they share a lot with. This is full-scale subterfuge by the Cameroonian Defense Forces.
Okay, I mean, because this is pretty much of a surprise, because there are videos out there where some communities, who are trying to run away resettle. I mean, this latest one even had it that they didn't just invade the community. They stayed for about, I think, almost over a week before they decided to destroy, properties, and then they left. So, I mean, you're saying that it's not the Ambazonians, but the gendarme forces, will I say, brings a twist to this particular narrative. So what would you say is the motivation of the Ambazonian rebels?
The Ambazonian rebels are motivated to break away from Cameroon and have a country of their own. They are English-speaking people. They are not Francophone. The rest of the Cameroon are Francophone. The oil wealth mineral resides or is domiciled in their area. There are a lot of Cameroonians in Nigeria. There are a lot of them in the south part of Nigeria. A lot of them are here. And Nigeria is home for them because this is where they get cover and succor. They can't come here and fight. I don't know if you've taken a ride to Calabar in recent times. If the moment you get close to Calabar, you begin to have a huge, you begin to notice a huge deployment and presence of Nigerian Immigration Service. They literally stop every vehicle that's either coming out of Cameroon into Akwa Ibom or coming, out of Cross River into Akwa Ibom, or from Akwa Ibom to Cross River, and they will stop and do a search and identification of everybody that is inside. I have been a victim of such because of my name. Some years ago, I was a victim. I was asked by the Nigerian Immigration person if my name sounds Nigerian. I showed him my ID and I showed him my driver's license because I cannot be. I was not carrying my international passport because I'm traveling within Nigeria, and the immigration official said that my name does not sound Nigerian. Do you understand? So this is how complex it is. They want to box them in so that they don't come to Nigeria anymore where they have succor or where they are being rehabilitated. They don't want to have succor. For your information, there are a serious intermarriage between them and people from Boki or Banliku, even as far as Ikom. There's serious intermarriage going on between them. So they have relatives, age-long ancestral ties between places. So how can they go back and fight these people? It is the Cameroonian authorities through undercover gendarmeries that go into the places of this disaffection, attack these communities, so that the communities will turn back and say, oh, you are our enemies now, get our place, and they go back where they are held up. These people are running out, and the only or the closest place for them to go to are Nigerian territories, from Taraba down to Cross State. How will they fight these people that are happening? It's not possible. It is the Cameroonian state that is after these people, and the only way that they feel they can stop these people from getting moral support through the displaced, through the rehabilitation, getting other communities, is to ensure that something happens that make the Nigerians to rise against them.
I mean, I mean, point of view or your point of analysis really sheds, will I say, opens a new, will I say, path of focus on this particular narrative. You're saying that the Cameroonian state, through the Gendarme forces, right? If I got you correctly, are the ones behind all of this.
Gendarmerie, the
Gendarmerie forces. Thank you. Now,
yes.
I'm still trying to get it clear in terms of to what end? What is the objective? Then, how are the Ambazonian rebels actually pushing their what I call it objective right now with the government of Cameroon? Particularly the government of Paul Biya, requesting, you know what, we need to be separate, we need to be, you know, autonomous. I mean, it's a bit, it's twisted. Are you there?
Let me just give you some little perspective.
Okay.
There's a media blackout over what is going on in Ambazonia for years in the Nigerian media space and international mainstream media. There is blackout, right? Now, there was a time some years ago, I would not like to mention the name of that TV network in Nigeria, that gave them airtime, and they had some form of a presence in Nigeria, and they were always appearing during a morning show in a TV station, cable satellite TV station in this country, where they were appearing. That was like 10 years ago. And they were always appearing on this program, requesting for relief materials, donations, and support from Nigerians that is being shipped to them. Now, they approached the Cameroonian parliament. They requested for secession. They asked for referendum that they want to leave Nigeria. They want to leave Cameroon again, but this time they don't want to come back to Nigeria, but they want to be a separate state because they have everything that. But the Cameroonian authorities don't want to have any of that because the part of the mainstay of Cameroon's foreign exchange is the exploitation of oil. And we all know what happened between Nigeria and Bakassi from that judgment, where the Bakassi Peninsula that is oil rich was taken from Nigeria and given to the Republic of Cameroon by the International Court in The Hague, right? The International Court in The Hague. So imagine the Nigerians that were displaced, the Nigerian citizens that were displaced in Cameroon. A whole local government in Nigeria was obliterated and removed from the map. Just to make way for Cameroon to take over that territory. This is what is going on. They don't want to leave that place. That place is not only rich in oil resources, minerals, is rich in shrimps through the Atlantic Ocean, massive shrimps and fisheries, aquatic life, wildlife, the thick forests, thick, serious forest with timber, sophisticated timber like birch, like mahogany, and they have a lot of wildlife. They even have an endangered species of a certain species of monkeys and gorillas and baboons that are in their forests. So they're majorly forested and mountainous people. It's a beautiful place, actually. It's
okay. All right, Brown.
very,
I mean,
very
I would
place.
get back to you because I would
It's the
actually
jewel
like
of Cameroon.
to.
Cameroon does not want to allow that place go, and that is what is happening. So since these people are running into Nigeria, the only way to stop them from coming into Nigeria is to, yes.
All right, I'm going to get back to you, Brown, because there's quite, I mean, a number of gray areas I'd love clarification. If you say, for instance, the Gendarmerie forces are the ones carrying out many of these attacks, that would be tantamount to some sort of invasion in Nigeria. I mean, where is the security forces, Nigerian security forces in all of this? Are they saying they are not privy to this? But we'll get your response on that. We have Richard Noyo, Country Director, Citizen Solutions Network, who is also joining this conversation right now. Richard, I would like to know what your take is as regards this very disturbing report we got concerning a belegete community and the Ambazonian rebels, the attack on that particular community. What do you have to say to that?
Well, first, it's been long. It's not like it started recently. Okay, over the last 4 or 5 years, we've seen the invasion of the so-called 3 key local government areas in Cross River State invaded by Ambazonian rebels who are fighting against the Cameroonian government, calling for their own freedom. So it's been there for the last 4 years. It's just sad that recently what we saw in belegete community is strange because first the paramount ruler, the traditional ruler there has been killed. Outside that, we've seen girls being raped, we've seen people being injured, and we've seen a massive displacement of people across the entire community. So I don't think the way we're seeing it from the perspective of a cross-variant problem. No, it's a Nigerian problem. It's an attempt to undermine the sovereignty of this country, but most importantly is to also put the country in a state where we have to now start thinking how to respond to the problem in Cameroon as they're splitting over, so that we have enough military men and women across the length and breadth of that war zone to ensure that the Nigerian people are protected. It's not for the Nigerian government to just arrest people who are said to have moved from Cameroon into Nigeria that call themselves Ambazonian rebel. It's not just enough to arrest these people. Nigeria must demonstrate more commitment by ensuring that we deploy sufficient amount of our military men and women to protect the good people of not just Cross River State, but across the length and breadth of the corridor where that war is ongoing.
All right. I mean, we'll, of course, continue the conversation, but right now we need to go on a quick break. When we return, we'll be looking at this particular development from multiple angles. Stay with us. This is still Secure the Continent, and of course the conversation we're having at this time has to do with the recent attacks in Cross River State, the belegete community, where it's been reported that alleged Ambazonian rebels did attack that community, destroyed properties, and of course displaced quite a number of people. Still analyzing this situation with me is George Brown, security analyst from River State, and also Richard Noyo, Country Director, Citizen Solution Network, Cross River State. I would still like to stay with you, Richard. Now, George, who is also a guest on the program, said that many of these attacks are not carried out by the Ambazonian community, forces. But I understand that Richard, we don't have him at the moment. Maybe I'll just stay with George. George, let's talk about the Gendarmerie forces right now. If at all you say they are state will I say, linked forces. Some would say to a very large extent is an invasion of the territorial integrity of Nigeria. What is the role or what is the position of the Nigerian security architecture in that region doing about this in terms of ensuring that are they aware? Is there enough intel? And are they doing anything to sort of push back this advance?
Okay, very, very good question, Dapo. Let me also give us some historical perspective again. The first shot that declared the Nigeria-Biafra Civil War, the commencement, the first shot as it's called, was fired in a place called Gakem, and it's within that region. That was where the first shot that heralded the beginning of hostilities in the Nigerian Civil War started. And the Cameroonian government also did not support the rebel secessionists from Nigeria, as it were, the Biafrans at the time. If the Biafrans had an alliance with the Cameroonians, whose president at the time was Ahiju, I think maybe Biafra wouldn't have been part of Nigeria today. I'm very sure about that. But they did not give Nigeria, they did not give the Biafrans cover, so Biafra was landlocked and hemmed in the middle. Well, that's just for perspectives. However, let me just, I'm trying to make this as simple as possible for everybody to understand. How can a refugee that shares a lot of traditional and historical ethnic ties with a host begin to attack the host? That is not just possible. It's a no-brainer. It's not possible. Those people cannot attack these communities that gives them succor. Like I said,
sorry to cut in, Brown. There are also reports that some of these attacks are carried out because some of this, well, I call it host communities, have refused to join the rebel group in their struggle. Hence, the reason for many of the attacks or chaos that we are seeing in that particular region. Don't you think that's also enough motivation on the part of the alleged quote-unquote Ambazonian boys to carry out the carnage they're going about with?
Do you know what it, do you know that in every conflict there is what is called strategic communication, what you guys call propaganda? It's called strategic communication. These are part of what is called non-kinetic approaches to conflicts. So for you to gain mind and hearts, you also need to set up a narrative and push it out to also influence the minds of the people that that is within the theater of operation. So I continue to say this, that it is not possible for your host to be attacked when you share a lot of things in common with them. Now, how can these Nigerians join them to fight their battle when they are not going to be part of it? So what is the rationale, or what is the incentive for the people of that area joining these Ambazonians to fight La République du Cameroun? What is their benefit? Nothing whatsoever. They don't have any benefits. They don't even want to be there. Though I have heard a lot of them say that they regret the decision made by their forefathers for leaving Nigeria, that they regret deeply. Now, let me even say this with some form of caution. There was a time in the heat of the Niger Delta issues in the early 2000s and late 2010, 2011, that certain groups from Nigeria went to a country called a neighboring country, and just over the Atlantic. You know, there are two countries that border Nigeria, the south of Nigeria at the Atlantic, the southern part of the Atlantic, called Equatorial Guinea and Sao Tome and Principe. Yeah. Now, the president of Sao Tome and Principe came visiting Nigeria, and the three ran that, overthrew that leadership. And the Nigerian president, sitting president at OBJ, Obasanjo, ordered that don't want to be Ambazonians. It is the Ambazonians that are fighting against the Republic of Cameroon. So why will the Cross Riverians want them in fighting? This is micro-based strategy, what people call propaganda. So it is propaganda to make the host get tired and send them out, lock them in, and stop them. I can even tell you for free that there are Chinese satellite jamming, radio frequency jamming, mobile radio frequency jamming equipment dispatched all over that part of Cameroon just to block them from having access to Facebook, just to block them from having access to Twitter and YouTube so that they cannot tell their story to the world. And there's an international conspiracy around mainstream media not to report the carnage that is going on there. And of course, on the Nigerian side, the Cameroonian administration would have also approached the Nigerian side and say, look, let's ensure that there is media backout. And that is what is going on. A lot of serious carnage is going there in that place. I can even call it a genocide. Yes.
I mean, on the
employ tactics of catching or physically catching Cameroonian gendarmes and slaughtering them. It's that terrible.
Okay, I mean, on the part where you said, I mean, people talking about it and, of course, the story being out there, even for us to get people to speak on this particular topic, you know, today was Herculean, right? So, I mean, it brings one to wonder exactly what the conspiracy, if at all any, all of this is about. But I still go back to ask this question. Looking at the level of destruction and carnage, at what, I mean, and the Gendarmerie being involved, talking about links with the Cameroonian government, I'm still trying to understand what exactly the objective this is, because I know that Nigeria, I mean, in terms of bilateral relations and all of that, we have very good relations with Cameroon, business-wise, in terms of political cross-fertilization of ideas and also economy and all of that. So I'm still trying to understand to what end, if at all, this is state-sponsored by Cameroon.
It is quite clear, and I'll continue to say it again, Dapo, that the Nigerian government does not want a destabilization of Cameroon, because Cameroon knows that if the Ambazonians, as they choose to call themselves now, they used to be the Southern Cameroon. Southern Cameroon was what they used to be known as, right? So there was even a political party called NCNC back in the day in this country. It was called Nigerian Council of a National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, NCNC. That party was founded by Nnamdi Azikiwe. It was called National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, NCNC. So we come a long way with these people because we share a lot with them. We share a lot. There are some of them that decided to settle down in Nigeria post-1961 and didn't go back to Cameroon. There are some of them, and they are very, very deeply entrenched here in Nigeria. They are part of the country today because they've lived here for over 50 years. So there is no way anybody will say that these people are fighting their relations, their kith and kin, that are not a fight. It's a fight for resources. It is a fight for resources. It's a fight for oil, minerals, fisheries, wildlife, and flora and fauna. It's a fight for resources.
Okay. Now, let's look at the efforts of the Nigerian government, particularly in curbing this. We know that when the recent attacks happened, there was a report that a paramount ruler said he had reached out to the army and police commanders nearby, but the security agents were unable to access the community because it is, very difficult in terms of topography. My question to you is this. What is the state government and also the federal government doing to sort of curb this particular menace? Is it that they are not aware, or they just choose to look away, or maybe the government is out of options? What exactly is the, how would you place the reaction of the government in all of this?
Okay, there are ungoverned spaces in Nigeria, and you will agree with me for a fact. There are ungoverned spaces in Nigeria. If there are no ungoverned spaces in Nigeria, why would Boko Haram have control of almost overrun an entire state, moved to neighboring states? It's because of ungoverned spaces. Same thing with those parts of Cross River and Taraba states. There are ungoverned spaces where you have almost zero government presence, zero. And we have porous borderlines, we have porous borders where people just move in and out across. So what do you expect? The Nigerian military forces got into this country just some 2 years ago in the fight, in hot pursuit against Boko Haram terrorists, came into Nigerian territory and defeated this Boko Haram forces and went back into their country. That was an invasion. That was an invasion. So the Nigerian military or the Nigerian security forces know their limitations, that we have ungoverned spaces in this country, and because of these ungoverned spaces, that they don't have the capacity. There is no provision for the government to have a presence in this place. Some of them are mountainous, some of them are deep, deep, deep forest areas. So you don't have the presence of the government in this place. But I can assure you that there are polling units in those places. There are public and primary schools in those places. I am very sure of that. At least there are polling stations there. But immediately the votes are curated and collected, the government forgets them. So it is not, this is beyond what Cross River State government can do. It is beyond that state at that level. That place has a very beautiful topography, though a difficult terrain. It's mountainous, very temperate at this time of the year. In fact, there are peaks in those areas right now that have snow caps. So it's a very temperate climate, very wonderful place, beautiful scene. However, it is mountainous and deeply, thickly forested. So how do you get government presence there when the government has decided to allow those spaces to be ungoverned? Of course, you have no choice but get people that come in and go out at will. That is what the situation is. So it's the problem of the federal government to go secure our borders around those areas.
Now, let's look at efforts of international communities like the ECOWAS, the African Union, even the United Nations. Would you say there's enough, or if at all, any effort by any of these international communities to look into this very disturbing situation?
Who gave Bakassi to Cameroon? Is it not the international? Is it not the United Nations through her arm, international court? It's the United Nations that took Cameroon, that took Bakassi from Nigeria. Bakassi is Nigeria. Yes, they took it. Is it the ECOWAS that is a stooge of France? So what are we talking about? As long as international and geopolitics is concerned, these francophone countries are more pliable to the West compared to Nigeria to a large extent. Not that the West does not have influence over Nigeria. The West have influence over Nigeria through multilateral institutions, but in the francophone areas is direct. They just summon the president of those countries and just tell them what they want them to do. But in the case of Nigeria, they use multilateral agencies, they use non-governmental organizations, they use civil society groups in pushing their agenda. And that is why they are telling us, that the IMF is telling us, that we are not selling petrol, or we are not buying petrol at the price that it's expected to be sold. That the Nigerian government is silently or secretly subsidizing petroleum products. And Nigerians get angry. But the fact remains that the IMF gives us loans. So when you're giving someone a loan, you attach conditions to the loan. So stop taking loans, tighten our belts, and rough it, so that we will not have conditionalities attached to our private life. Now, let me remind you again. There was a time some few months ago, before the hike in the price of oil, petroleum products that are bought and sold in neighboring countries like Togo, Cameroon, and Benin Republic, and up to Niger, were gotten from Nigeria, up to Chad, were all from Nigeria. Why? Because petroleum products in Nigeria at the time was around 200 naira. But if you take across the border, you sell it for about 500-600 naira at the time for a liter. So when you get petrol and sell it in the country, you prefer to take it across because up to 200-300% margin in selling across the border for a liter instead of selling it here. And that was why we were having scarcity of petroleum products in this country some months ago or some time ago. But since that was stopped, the price of petroleum products in Nigeria was increased. It killed that business. And the first people to react were the Cameroonians, because the price of cheap petroleum they were getting from Nigeria had ceased. The price has been increased in Nigeria. So their own price has to be increased again. So they started agitating and they were going on the streets because Nigeria was actually subsidizing the entire country that surrounds us, about 4 or 5 of those countries. These are countries that live on Nigeria, yet they have no respect for Nigeria, including Cameroon, La Republique. They have no respect for Nigeria. Without Nigeria, those countries are having a hard time. Yet they have no respect for Nigeria. Why? Because of the international community and the West that is backing them. Why did they take Bakassi from Nigeria, displaced the whole people from their ancestral lands, and made them IDPs in their own country? Just because of love, because of minerals.
Okay, so my question to you now will be, is there an end to this? Is there a solution, a permanent solution to this? Did you get my question?
Okay. Are you talking about solution on the Nigerian side or solution on the
solution
Cameroon?
on both sides?
Okay.
Solution where at the end of the day we don't see this kind of attacks, very unfortunate attacks on communities, cross-border attacks, on border communities, on both sides of the country.
Okay, Dapo, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, on the Nigerian side, the solution is simple. Nigerian authorities should ensure that the ungoverned spaces are covered. It's that simple. Let there be government presence in those ungoverned spaces. It's that simple. There are people in Taraba State that are in border towns that go to hospitals in Cameroon and they don't come to hospitals in Nigeria, but they are perfectly in Nigeria. It's the same thing. So let the government occupy the ungoverned spaces. Firstly, by having security detachments, men of the Nigerian Armed Forces, Nigerian Police, and the Immigration and Custom, arm-bearing services, let them be in those ungoverned spaces. And that will solve the problem to an extent, right? Because intelligence will come in, the intelligence community and intelligence assets will be deployed. And before anybody comes from outside our borders into those communities to cause mayhem, the intelligence assets will share this gainful intelligence with the Nigerian security operatives that are on ground, and they will halt it. So that is what we need to do on our side to ensure that the cross-border crisis or skirmishes don't happen anymore, right? Then on the part of Cameroon, I don't think that the La République du Cameroon government is willing to allow the Ambazonians to secede from Cameroon. Obviously, that's the mainstay of the economy of Cameroon. And of course, they are a minority population and a minority, so to speak, a minority tribe, though they are made up of a lot of tribes, but they're a minority population, all right? And they are being subjected to subhuman treatment. They are second-class citizens in that country, and all these are the things that made them to decide that they don't want to be part of that country again, and they started agitating for their own freedoms. Initially, the agitation was not violent. The agitation went on for decades, for almost 2 decades, where they were agitating. They approached their National Assembly, they were going on civil advocacy. But it got to the point that the government of Cameroon decided to unleash terror and force, and the people decided to help themselves. Now, if they are able to get heavy logistics support, I mean heavy logistics support, they will tilt the balance of force. However, because they are unable to get that, because no part of the West is willing to give them such support, the Nigerian government is also not an expansionist government. If the Nigerian government was an expansionist government and we have such strategic plans and objectives, Nigeria can actually ensure that that country is restored back to this country. Yes, the Nigerian government can do that. But the Nigerian government is not willing to do that. And the West will not give them such support. So they are left to fight for their freedom.
I mean,
will stop attacking them till they surrender. And they are not willing to surrender. Because when you're fighting a war that is based on ideology, it's very difficult to defeat your enemy.
I mean, this is this particular, what I call it, crisis right now seems to have a multifaceted face. Talking about the revelation you just made, saying that the Cameroonian government might even, I mean, has a hand in it through the Gendarmerie forces. But we just hope that as soon as possible, maybe some sort of diplomatic intervention should happen to restore peace. But thank you so much for your time. George Brown, security analyst from Rivers State. Thank you. And also, we were briefly joined by Richard Noyo, country director, Citizen Solutions Network from Cross Rivers State. Thank you once again for your time, George.
Thank you, Dapo.
All right. And that's a wrap on today's episode. Always remember that it's important that you stay safe and very alert at all times. I am Dapo Adegboye. Bye for now.